Working on the cabinet project here, had to completely deconstruct it. And by the way, this is the extent of the dust after 3 years. Never cleaned it. This is sitting on the bottom here. The old setup was just sucking it around the front door and out the back top. And that was the extent of what accumulated. So I don't have anything to worry about in the new system. I'll get in there, every couple years and give it a dusting, but that's not bad at all. It certainly doesn't affect your equipment. Just a real light coating. Now, I had to do a couple modifications. I got the new backboard size cut out. All I did is, what is that? Oh, that's a hair on my screen. I thought there was a scratch. I just used the old one as a template, what was left of it, and then used a metal square and razor knife to gently cut through and make my cuts. No big deal there. I have to run a saw through here though. These are the side plates, so they sit up like this. And it slides down the sides and then locks into the channel on the bottom. Channel on the bottom and the top are big enough for the new one, but this is too small. The old panel actually had grooves cut in it that I forgot about, and so it kind of like fit in that T-channel to keep it from flopping. So it won't go in as is, but after I just widen it, and all it's gonna take is one quick pass, just the width of the saw blade, just to make it that size, and it will drop right in. You guys good puppy helpers? Yeah? You a good puppy helper? You didn't help much. No, you didn't. There we go. Like a glove, white on the white on the back, black on the inside. It's actually stronger than new because this is a solid, thicker piece, and the original was a thinner, folding, kind of cardboardish piece. I think I'll sell it. Can't really think of any use for it. I mean, I love the look and everything, but I'm an anti-pack rat. If I don't have a use for it, it goes. Well, I just found the perfect use. Popcorn station. Now I get room in my liquor display back. I had moved this in here out of the way because I had it up for sale. And then I look over here, I'm like, oh, that's perfect. Fits like a glove. Oh, wow. Okay, well, shocked. That's all I can say. I'm shocked at the difference. First of all, zero setup. No, the subs aren't on. Just streaming real quick to check sound and connections through Bluetooth from Amazon Music from my phone. Absolutely insane what the difference is. Loved the previous setup. Said it a million times. It was like a wall of sound. The speakers disappeared. Great sound stage. You would swear the center channel is on. Imaging, pinpoint, all that. This takes it 3D. It goes from a wall of sound like you're watching a stage to sound in a bubble in front of you. Behind the speakers, in front of the speakers, sides of the speakers, all that. It's just so warm, so realistic, and effortless, absolutely effortless, and a hell of a lot louder. First, I was really worried because I've got it on default stuff, and it maxes out at 99. I don't even know if it goes above 99. I haven't looked, but I turned it up all the way, and it was, okay. It was still way below my previous max volume when I hit 0. And then I realized, streaming over Bluetooth, it's using my headphone volume settings, which was 50%. Turned that up, and holy crap, way louder than you ever want to listen. Oh, and here's a good example of some of the weird bugs I was talking about. Things that you just shouldn't see when you're spending thousands of dollars. Look at the kerning on the word network, how it's off. That's a space between letters. You can see between the W and the O, there's not much, but between the O and the R and the K, it's wider. Narrower between the N and the T, E's shifted to the left. Just little stuff like that should have been picked up. And likewise on the display, there's things that are just off, pixels that are off. It's, it stands out. Discerning customers notice these things. They really should fix these quickly. Another bug here, just going through the web interface, which isn't in the manual. I knew about it from reading the support forums, third-party support forums. Anyway, you just go to the networking on the front panel and find out what your IP address has been set to, and then just go to it in a browser and you get this nice setup here. So you don't have to use the screen and the remote and all that crap. So I was just clicking through and I clicked on input config and changed over to where I have my Apple TV and Shield plugged in. So I was going to rename them and do all that kind of stuff, and it just locked up. Let's see if a refresh does anything. Please close the front panel menu to continue. I think they mean that. Okay. Let me grab the remote and try. Odd that it just popped up because I hadn't done anything with it. I'm assuming, which button is it going to be? Menu, turn it back off. Okay. Screen went blank. It says Bluetooth not connected. That's correct. Okay. Let's try again. It's in the last one called STB. And okay, there we go. Weird. I'd been working in this just fine and nothing changed with the system over there. I have no idea why that popped up there. But these are the kind of glitches that you're gonna have to work through. It's not just this. Like I said, all of them have these bugs. Doesn't matter how much you spend. And just to swing around to another positive, one really cool thing is, normally with a receiver, you've got all these different kinds of settings, you know, what kind of mixing to use and lip sync settings, trims, and all that kind of good stuff, and it's global. This has all settings for each input. It's just so much to configure if you need to or want to, so that's really cool. Mine are going to end up being all the same, so I would actually appreciate a global or maybe a copy from other setting or something, but it's really cool that they break everything out, which is easy to do when you're basically running a Linux computer. That's what that thing is. You know, it's not a consumer piece of electronics. It's a computer, and that's why boot up takes a while, just like the Raspberry Pi. That's why you have to follow procedures for shutting it down and all that kind of good stuff. But hey, focus. There we go. That's a bug in the iPhone, by the way. Whenever you go to the 2.5 lens and back to the 1, sometimes the focus is stuck on the 2.5 setting and it can't even refocus until I restart another video. Anyway, back to work. Now, just something I wish they would implement in firmware and something I liked in the Yamaha, you can't hide an input. So it's got all of these different inputs: focus, STB, game, AV, SAT, BD, UHD, and PVR. Those are all HDMI inputs, and I'm only going to be using 4 of them, and I would like to hide the other ones from even showing in a menu. You could do that on the Yamaha, but not on this. Another minor gripe here, they don't have these in the right order. Usually these are in the order that they're actually in the menu, which matches the back of the unit. These are just random. I have no idea why they're anywhere like this. It's not alphabetical, it's not in the physical order, it's not in the menu order. So it doesn't make any sense. And just an example here of what's better. This is the Yamaha app. This is great, and I hope that JBL releases a similar app. This is just fantastic to use. You've got full control of every function. It's graphical, it's fast. You can change all your settings all from here. You even have a virtual remote control, so you don't actually need the remote for anything. All the functions of the remote are built in virtually. It's just really nice. So this is what they should be doing, in my opinion. And this comes on receivers that are just a couple $100. Whoo, boy, did this throw me for a loop. I was worried there for a second that maybe the XLR to RCA cables I got weren't compatible or weren't working. So I wasn't getting anything out of the subs or the transducers. And that kind of led it back to MiniDSPs, because all 3 of those are going through MiniDSPs. So I hooked up to MiniDSP here and monitoring the input signal. Well, you saw it there a second ago when it was actually playing bass, but I've got the speaker set to small, crossed over it, you know, whatever, just for testing. Okay, there we go. So we can see now that signal's coming in, and I knew I had the MiniDSP set up, but I'd never used those new cables before. And I finally found it was a weird setting in each input, of course. It's called stereo mode. I never would have thought this would be under there, but the default is left-right. When you think of stereo left-right. Well, the Yamaha didn't have this next option. For stereo mode, you can set it to the default left-right, or left-right plus sub, or sub plus sat, which I don't even know what it is, or as speaker types. And I'm assuming as speaker types means whatever you set your speaker types, that will supersede. So I'm not 100% sure on the workflow of this particular menu, but this is working. So this is what I expected it to do. On the Yamaha, if you set a crossover for your speaker types, everything follows it. It's global. But this obviously lets you override that crossover setting per input. Again, really, really nice that they give you this control. Oh, and I just realized what these probably are. On the Yamaha, you have this feature called extra bass, which plays bass from the subs and mains at the same time. So they call that extra bass. What it really means is really screwed up phase between your subs and mains. So don't run that. And that's got to be what left-right plus sub means. Sub plus sat, still not 100% sure on what that is. All right, something else I just found out the hard way. When you look in the UI here, you've got a whole bunch of settings, and it would appear, and of course, what anyone would assume, when you make a selection, it would take effect, but it doesn't. And there's no button to apply, which they really should have if they're going to do it this way, because it looks like some things just don't work. When you're playing something and you change the mix mode, it should instantly switch as it's playing. And that's what it does on the Yamaha and anything else that I've seen that uses an app. Or they have a button down here to apply changes or something like that. But they don't have anything. So what you have to do is make your changes and then switch to a different input. Just pick one and then switch back. And sometimes it still locks up, just switching between modes. So just switched up there correctly to the Apple TV, but you can see the web UI is frozen. So you have to do a reload. Full of bugs, absolutely full of bugs. They're not game changers or game stoppers, but it definitely throws new users for a loop. It's not something that the average consumer is gonna figure out. So now we switch back, and I wish it relabeled this menu with the new name. What's the point in renaming your input if it only shows it here in the screen, which doesn't do you any good, and on the front of the panel? I mean, that's nice, that's expected, but it should be everywhere that it's utilized. That's the entire point of renaming it. So STV is my shield, I believe. And there we go. So that's how you make changes. Make your changes, whatever you're gonna do, switch inputs, switch back. Verify it took. Getting closer. Oh, down here, Room EQ, once I run calibration and all that, you can set up to 3 presets. And then each input can use one of those 3 presets. So that's pretty cool. I only use one. I just set a house curve and I use it for everything. But if you have different needs, you can do that. You can set 3 different curves, 3 different setups, whatever you want to do, and each input can be assigned one of them. I've just been going through a playlist I made of demos, and I verified that yes, they all are. First I checked in native, make sure it's picking up all the correct formats, and it is. And then I checked using the native upmix, and it does correctly go to Neural X for any DTS or DTS-MA, and it goes to Atmos for anything 5.1, Dolby Digital. Works great, flawlessly. And of course, right now I find the little section that I missed. So it does describe what those modes are, but I still don't understand what sub plus sat is. It says, use the setting if you really do have small satellite front, left, and right speakers, or if you prefer the overall sound of bass being handled by the subwoofer. Full bass management is used so that the analog and digital stereo sources are fed to the DSP where the bass is filtered off front and right and redirected to the subwoofer. So that's exactly what using speaker type small and choosing a crossover does. Maybe this is if you're not using that setting as a global and you want to force it, but then it doesn't give you a choice of crossovers. It doesn't mention where the bass is filtered. I really don't understand that one at all, but I was right about the left, right plus sub. Oh man. You see this stupid grin? It's been on my face for like an hour now, just going through stuff. Part of me is pissed that I didn't do this kind of upgrade earlier, until I remember really wasn't available until very recently, until they fixed the firmware to get things to this level. But I'm very glad that I took the leap and did it, because it is worth it. Let me tell you what. Now, I'm going to have a full review with detailed, I'm going to go through demo scenes and give you some things to listen to and stuff like that, maybe in the next video. Certainly after I get Direct Live running. I'm still out of the box, zero setup, just running stuff. I mean, speaker levels haven't been touched, phase hasn't been touched, nothing. And it is blowing everything else I've heard away, like not even close. So in this scene, I was listening to one thing, or for one thing in particular, but the whole scene is dramatically different. A couple things stand out. The one in this scene in particular, I read a review, it might have been a post, I think it was in Youthman Group. Anyway, he was talking about, whoever wrote it, I don't remember what processor it was. I don't remember if it was this one or Trinov something, but I think he took a processor over to Youthman's and was demoing stuff or trying stuff. Anyway, the thing that struck me in what he wrote was, there's a scene where coins are being sucked up in the DeLorean, and he said he could hear the coins kind of like going in front of him. I think he said bouncing off his knees or something like that. And I really had no idea what he's talking about, because when I was playing it on my old system, you know, you could hear each coin and everything, but it was in the movie, right? I didn't get any kind of 3D effect or anything that he was describing. So I was really looking forward to seeing if I got that, right? So I play it, and the car goes under the tanker, I think it was a tanker, and, you know, blows up, turns into coins, and he goes through the DeLorean, door opens, sucks up the coins, and nothing. Sounds just like it did before. So, you know, a little disappointed there. And then a few seconds later, I'm just, you know, watching the rest of the scene. Car makes a jump, doesn't quite make it. Guy gets out of the car, gets hit, smashes into coins. He does it again, and voila. 3D coins. I mean, they are in the freaking room. Instead of just coming from speakers or, you know, coming from the front, they're in the bubble. I got a shiver down the back of my neck. Wasn't listening for it. It was just there. Another thing that is starkly different are the dynamics, and especially the noise floor and the low details. It's hard to describe. A lot of this stuff you can't appreciate unless you've heard it. It's like trying to describe, if you've never been on the water for a long time and then come off and gotten sea legs, how are you going to describe that to anybody? You don't know that feeling until you experience it. And unfortunately, with audio, that's a lot of it. But I'm telling you, it's so much more immersive, so much more like a real theater. I can't believe it. But anyway, I'll go into a lot more details later on. For now, I think I'm done with the basics. Finally got all my inputs done. Everything appears to be working correctly. Oh, one other thing. This is a big thing. It must be due to the output levels better matching to the amplifier and the MiniDSPs, because not only does it play significantly louder out of the same power, this is the same power running to the mains in the center that I had before, goes way louder. The Yamaha was only putting out 1 volt out of its pre-outs. This, you know, I don't even know if I checked, but I think it defaults to 2. It's settable for 1, 2, and 4, I believe. I think it's on 2 by default. I didn't even see where to set that, as a matter of fact. Might be in the menu in there, I don't know. Anyway, the butt kickers, oh my God, twice as much out of the butt kickers without changing anything in the DSP. Just normal playing. And it's starkly obvious because they would bottom out. They would get a clunk. They'd get a metallic, overdrive. The signal was being clipped out of the Yamaha at the same volume level. And I'm not even maxed out. I have not clipped these yet. And it's just shaking the seat apart. It's too much. It's way more than is natural coming from the subs. So, man, shout out to Zach. I'll put his email address down below. He's an awesome dealer. Gets you a deal on this and a whole bunch of other brands and a whole bunch of other stuff. So hit him up. And I'm going to give him some more shout outs in the other videos I do with this. But I'm not kidding. If you're serious about music and or home theater, this is a treat. Treat yourself. No joke. See you guys next time. I will have much more coming later on.